Hello, welcome. It's Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you would like to help support my channel by subscribing. Also a bell to be notified as to when I upload more content. I'm coming to you from Kaurna country. As such, I acknowledge the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of the lands upon which I reside. So if you are a regular subscriber, you may have noticed that I've been away for the last month. I've been traveling. My mind is sort of still on the archaeological museums and sites that I have seen. And I really didn't want to come back home to the fraud that has erupted on social media, which I'm wanting to address in this video. And I don't know how long I'll keep this video up, depending on my mood. It's the second attempt I made to do this video, and it's just some things I just really want to say. And yeah, if you are aware of what's happened, so be it. I'm not going to name names or situations or events, hopefully. If you do not know what I'm talking about, that's fine. Ignorance is bliss, and I really wish I was in that state of bliss, because this is what I basically stepped into. I hadn't even had an opportunity to unpack my suitcase, get over jet lag, when I was seemingly, I don't say being involved, but there was an attempt to sort of drag me into this fraud. And there's other things too. So in essence, I guess it sort of highlights, at least to me, why the internet, in particular social media, can be used as a dangerous tool. I think we all are aware of that, especially when it comes to the manufacture and spread of half-truths and misinterpretations. So yes, I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to be direct, because the fallout or the implications that are being asserted either directly or indirectly can have actually an impact on me. And I really don't like having my hand being forced, and this is as close as people are going to get. So, as I said, I have no intention of going into detail, as I believe that too much time already has been given to this event due to the lack of transparency of the backstories. And there are a lot of backstories, more than what I was aware of, that are coming to light, at least to me, some of which have been manifesting or festering, depending on which way you're looking at it. There's deep wounds here for many years. I would also like to reiterate that this is my interpretation, how things have panned out, how I have seen them, and may or may not be completely accurate or an accurate representation, because again, based on my perception. And as we hopefully all know, our perceptions can differ. Perception, of course, is based on personal biases. We all have them. And our personal biases are based on our own sort of brain's natural filtering mechanism ability. This is something, as I said, is known in psychological circles. It's known within NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, in other circles as well. I suppose police know that. You ask 3 people what happened in relation to even a motor accident, and they will come up with multiple responses. Not only am I dealing with, or I feel I'm dealing with, my own emotional responses to what is occurring. Firstly, shock. I didn't expect this to happen within my own magical spiritual community, which is small. At the end of the day, we are a small group of people. There's a degree of disbelief. There is disappointment. there's sadness, and be perfectly honest, I'm also experiencing anger. But I'm also attempting to get over jet lag. As I said, I've been away for 3 weeks. I'm wanting to process the experiences that I have occurred or experienced. I want to integrate my experiences. I want to unpack my suitcase. I also have more personal things happening in my life that are more important, like my family, like work, etc. Even, as I mentioned, the weeds in my garden. I've got my focuses elsewhere. I really do not want to deal with this. And there's a part of resentment of how I've been dragged into it, or there's been this attempt to drag me in particular by someone I've known for many years, decades even. And in a way, their insistence of me getting involved in what I see as an online brawl without providing me the courtesy to catch my breath, having explained it in a way, insisting on basically barraging me with endless messages. And this all appeared over a 24-hour, 36-hour period, almost demanding immediate action. Now, I work. I've gone back to work. I don't know if they work still, but I had other things, as I said, that I was doing. I could not respond to them immediately. And so I just ignored them until a time when I had the time. So I actually haven't read all the messages properly. I haven't investigated. I all had the opportunity to investigate the situation because this barraging, this consistency, their insistence that I direct immediate attention to something that wasn't on a high priority level in my own life. This lack of courtesy that they're shown to me, if you know me, that sort of thing gets my back up. Not to mention, despite asking for my opinion, they went ahead, which I should say I had yet to be given, they went ahead and issued public statements that were made within an online community I'm part of. And I hate to say this, but these public statements, as I am finding out, do not actually reflect the actual truth. There is being revealed to me a whole messy entanglement behind the scenes. And for the last 3 days, more and more is being revealed. And it's giving me a different interpretation of things. Then I'm also dealing with more feelings or the realization that, hey, I live in a cave. I have apparently been ignorant of what else is going on within my own community, as well as the iterative motives, the underhanded decisions or actions. And all of these added up together are giving a possible, it's improbable, but possible underpinning or reasoning as to why the situation has erupted in a manner that it has. And then we have the timing of the situation, not only me personally, but the timing of being notified of the original sort of online postings being made. I found rather interesting, considering the email post or the message it was mentioning occurred 18 months ago. This post has only just recently been brought to my attention, and I think indeed has been published. And this was a red flag for me. I wanted to investigate a little bit more. As I said, a lot that is being revealed to me over the last few days is enough to, I don't know, make you sick, make you weep, both, be angry. I am utterly disappointed, angry, I guess, don't know whether externally or internally, to realize that people that I have been engaging with for years, people that I have respected, whose work I've supported, whose wine I've drunk, so much more, really cannot be trusted and not 100% truthful with me for whatever reason. And I suppose this is just a reflection that we're human beings. Are we ever 100% truthful? And this realization has come because there are holes in the versions of the stories that are now being represented, repeated on social media. There is a distinct flavoring of the overall perspective to an audience that may or may not have been aware or even care, have any input. And again, there's an element that this is possibly driven by today's clickbait world of the rise in popularity of someone big noting themselves or attempting to big note themselves as a sort of self-complained savior. And I've had a person this year approach me who, again, demonstrated that and has basically turned themselves into a vigilante. And it's not so much their cause that doesn't resonate with me. It's more of the way they are conducting themselves. And that is not in alignment to what I personally perceive spiritual leader or person or whatever they want to protect themselves as should be conducting. And again, this is my perception, and I know I do have sort of lofty values which I fail to reach constantly. What comes to mind? I'm just sort of checking my notes because I'm jumping all over the place here, is a myth that many of us are aware of, the descent of the goddess, which is from ancient Sumer, that details Inanna, who over decades, really, since my first sort of introduction to the myth, early 90s, maybe it was late 90s, Inanna was depicted as the innocent victim who descended into the underworld, into the great below, because she wanted to visit her sister Ereshkigal and provide her comfort because Ereshkigal had recently lost her husband and she wanted to attend the funeral rites. However, there are other stories that at the time were not being included, which were being overlooked, or maybe people were not aware of them. And these backstories indicated or explained how Gagalan lost his life, how he was killed, and that was as a direct result of Inanna. So in realization to that, it gives a different understanding or interpretation that Inanna's not as innocent as she appears to be. And I do include the story of Inanna's descent and Ereshkigal, particularly from Ereshkigal's point of view, in my book about the dark goddesses. So this story came to light. In other words, it highlights that not everything that's been depicted, not to mention in the manner in which it's been depicted, may actually be true or accurate. And as such, this realization, I am not taking sides. Now, I'm not getting further involved apart from this statement. Even despite the fact that I've already been implicated due to my connection with the person who this is erupting all around. How my stance will be interpreted, it's entirely up to whoever wishes to interpret it. I'm an adult. I'm fully aware that actions come with consequences. There's a reaction to every action. It's a basic law of the universe. However, as my grandmother used to always say to me, what people think about me is none of my business. If folks want me to cancel me based on my stance of not wanting to get involved, of what they've heard from other people or read in public forum, I don't care, none of my business. Well, actually, I do care. I would like people who resonate with my work to get access to it. But I can't control other people. However, I'm also not driven by the popularity stakes and the desire to be number one. Oh, yes, I would like to have more viewers on my YouTube channel. That would be fantastic. But I work in the real world. I have a real job. I'm not driven by popular opinion, or I try not to be. And that seems to be the ultimate driving force of a lot of today's ego-focused sort of social media-driven world, the influencers, people getting upset as to who or who not has liked their posts. I feel sorry for the younger generation. That's not how I was brought up. Some things that, I suppose, almost in summary, that have sort of come out or been highlighted to me in the last few days that I do not like. And this is another reason as to why I'm not getting involved in further, is that there are comments that appear to have purposely been taken out of context in order to be presented in a manner that is causing harm, or intentionally is causing harm, not only to the person who originally made those comments, but to anybody else involved with that person. We're basically all being tarred with the same brush, and I really dislike that. There is also what appears to be in a blatant ignoring, what's the word? No, it's not. There's an ignorance of or avoidance or admittance of the context in which these said comments were originally made, despite them being justified, I guess. I don't know if this is because the explanation given did not align with personal narratives or not, but the whole context of the comments have been made to light to certain individuals, including myself. And while, again, I still don't agree with the original comments in the context in which they were said, that to me is a pass. Maybe the person who had made the public announcements was wanting something more. I don't know what, but they definitely were not satisfied with what they received. I really dislike the manipulation and the retelling of events in order to enforce a particular narrative that is very biased and misleading. And I'm seeing this as other people getting on the bandwagon. And again, this is based on the backstory, or some of the backstory, a section of the backstory, snippet that I've been made aware of. And again, this is my perception, my interpretation. More personally, I really don't like being emotionally bullied. I don't like this attitude that you're with us or against us. This is sort of a directive that George W. Bush ordered or implied to the Western world, I think, when the September 11th happened. That led to the war in Afghanistan, the rise of the Taliban, which has sort of gone all across the Middle East. There's this polarity, distinct polarity that they're over one side or another, and there's nothing in between. I really dislike that. I've done a video about polarity because this disrespected my request that I originally made, that I had just come back from overseas. I was needing more clarity around what had happened. But this assertion that it can either be one way or another inserts that I'm also guilty of support due to non-involvement. And I know that is contradictory because there's Edwards, I'm just trying to think, politician, I know I've done a video on him as well. He's an Irish politician, I think he's a politician, yeah, who basically said lines of the way of sort of giving rise to evil is for good men to do nothing. And I know I'm going to remember the exact quote later on. But I'm not doing nothing. I am gathering evidence to make an informed decision. I just need a little bit of time instead of jumping on the bandwagon. So this whole situation, to me, is an excellent example of how many narratives there are, all twisted together. I mean, backstories. And even, I admit, the one that I'm presenting here is based on my own perception, interpretation of events, and what has been exposed to me. There's probably a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not involved with that I really don't want to know about. This is enough. What is amusing, surprising, saddening even, is that such attacks or assumptions, at the very least, are being directed by people, some of which, as I said, I know. I thought I knew it on a very personal level. Some people of which I recall a time when they also courted controversy themselves. One person in particular who has effectively been emotionally bullying me, intentionally or not, once said to me when I questioned something they did, was, if you weren't there, you don't have a right to an opinion. And that's always stuck with me. And I thank them for highlighting that to me, because that has really made me, when I come up to a situation like this, to stop, hopefully, before I react. Well, I wasn't there for half the backstory that is being unfolded, of which their own involvement is beginning to come to light, and of which they've never actually also disclosed to me. So I'm taking their words to heart. I wasn't there. I wasn't privy to this information. That may be one of the underpinning reasons for what's escalating. But then again, it is easy to jump on our high horse and get swept up with popular opinion and self-righteousness. I know I've done that myself. However, it is, as I said, rather ironic that one of the people that I am currently working through my own reactions to is someone that I know. And also someone who I know is aware of the perception, the belief, the understanding that circulates in psychological and NLP circles, that when people set us off, in particular, this is a really good example, often it is because they are reflecting a shadow aspect within our own selves that we need to work through, to identify, to address. And indeed, they've even mentioned this in a posting that they've done just recently, which I haven't read, but I just saw the headlines where they're talking about the shadow. So they are aware of this. Whether they're taking their own advice to heart, I don't know. So there's another aspect. Part of me is also thinking about whether the intense eclipse season that we've gone through is also playing part. See, it's the timing. As veils are falling, both apparently within my own spiritual circles, but also on the global stage as well. And some of us are aware that of these veils, and we're waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. But it's just like, yeah. I'm wondering if the eclipse, we've also got placements of certain planets that are adding to the energetics of this. But with all this being said, at the end of the day, what is, I guess, saddest point is that my own spiritual magical community is small. Here in Australia, it's small compared with the rest of the world. As spiritual magical people, we are aware, or we should be aware, of the energetics of our actions, of what we're putting out. After all, the world, in the world today, there's enough hate. There's more than enough anger. There's more than enough sadness as it is. Why are we adding to it? Especially with these online debates. Any online debate, when we are driven by this insistence of polarity, things are not all what they seem to be. Yet, despite all this, the sun will still rise tomorrow, and my weeds will still be waving at me from my garden, and my suitcase will still be needing to be unpacked. So, if you're watching this to the end, hopefully you'll sort of gain a little bit of an understanding as to where I'm coming from and why I'm not interested in being involved. If you want to judge me, it's entitled to. There's nothing I can do about that. If you have a question, you can contact me. But I don't want to be involved any further. I've seen enough. Yeah, I really don't want to be involved. I have my opinions, I have my stance, and I'm continuing on with my life. So I wish you all the best. Breathe. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. Blessings.